your mom took care of me for 60 years, and I got to take care of her, what little I needed to take care of her. Now, you really don't have to take care of her very much at all until the last year, because they can do a lot of things. Eat. In fact, she can do, for the first couple of years, she can still do some cooking and so forth. So it was only in the last year when she really couldn't walk. I couldn't get her to go up the stairs very well. That's when I got the chair lift. And then when she couldn't really walk, that's when we didn't go walking for a couple of years. I didn't have the good sense to take her in a wheelchair. One day, Rebecca was sitting right there. She said, "Grandpa, why don't you take Grandma up and down in front of the house in the wheelchair? Go a couple of houses, just let her get some fresh air." Well, we did that the next day. We went a couple of houses, then we went 3 houses, then we went Brownfield, and then I took her to the stop sign. Yeah. So in probably 2 weeks, we were doing what I considered about the same amount of effort that we used to have in our 3-mile walk when I would take her for about 1 mile and 7/10 to the stop sign, but I was pushing her in a wheelchair. And that came out to be about as tiring as 3-mile walk. And that's what we did for 2 years. Almost all the time we ever walked together, I had my arm around her. I just did that. Then she couldn't really walk very well.
Steady.
So we just stopped walking. And we stayed home. I wouldn't go walking either because I wouldn't leave her. Once Mom had Alzheimer's, I spent practically all my time with her. The only time she ever got a relief from Dad was I'd take her to the church and I'd hand her off to somebody who, there was a lady she used to sit with all the time. She'd meet me at the door and she'd take Carol into the church service and let her go to the service. And then when the service was over, I'd be outside waiting to pick Carol up. And that was the only relief she got from Dad. The rest of the time, she was with me all the time. She did remember that every once in a while, she would have an amazing remembrance of long-term memory. What really used to surprise me was that she could remember some of our duty stations. And that was a long time ago, see?
Mm-hmm.
Short-term memory is almost all gone for Alzheimer people. You could be with her, go out of the room and come back, and she didn't know you had just been with her. You were a new arrival then. That was one of the tricks I played on Mom. She would ask me, "Where's Les?" She knew the guy that was with her was a special guy, but she didn't know I was Les. She'd, "Where's Les?" Then I would leave her for a few minutes. I'd just go out of the room and come rushing back and announce, "Honey, I heard you're looking for Les. I'm back now, honey." And then she'd be happy, and smile, and that's good, or whatever. But she'd soon forget that I was Les. But it was a good time. I got to take care of your mom, and she was delightful. This lady, I loved this lady. I loved being with her, even taking her to the bathroom. And she hadn't been to the bathroom for a while, and I wanted to make sure that she didn't have an accident. We would just go to the bathroom, and I'd have her sit on the pot, and then she'd say, and then we'd sit there and wait until she could go, and then pretty soon she'd tinkle a little bit, and then I said, "That's what we're looking for, sweetheart," and then we'd both smile, and then that little evolution is over, and then we would go on and do whatever we were doing, and then when it was time to go to the bathroom again, frequently I would take her. But we spent a lot of time in the bathroom, but I just had a stool in there, and I would sit there and we'd just talk while we were waiting for her to go to the bathroom. But it worked because she never had an accident. I took care of her. She never, ever had an accident when I was taking.
That's amazing, pretty amazing. Yeah.
Well, it was amazing to me too.
Yeah.
And it was amazing to the hospice people. I said, am I cheating my wife by not putting her in a professional place where they got professional caregivers? I said, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. You are giving her the best care she would ever have. Because you are with her every second. And you love her. I love taking care of your mom. Mm-hmm. I'd rather do that than anything else in the world. And she, although she was not Carol that I married and my wife for these years and years and years, she was still a delightful person in my life, even with what capability she had. If nothing else, just a sweet smile from her was all I needed. One of those smiles like on that picture right there. Most people who are taking care of Alzheimer people, they may be their dear loved ones, but many of them will not have the background that I had of knowing about the program, the Alzheimer loss of the patient. And so therefore they're devastated almost every day as they see more and more loss and more loss and more loss and more loss. That wasn't happening to me. I was tickled for what she could still do. She could still talk. She could still sit and eat. She sometimes have to cut the meat for her or whatever, but she could do a lot of things. And I let her do everything she could. Mom handled life really well until the last year, as far as I'm concerned. She could pretty much dress herself lots of times. I helped her by being there, but she did most of the stuff herself. And I let her do everything I could let her do. I figured she'll lose it soon enough. Just let her do what she can. And she liked that. Sometimes she'd put a shirt on backwards, but she didn't complain.
Issues.
You know, some Alzheimer's people change character. They start swearing. They use bad words. They do all kinds of unique things that they don't normally do. Your mom didn't do that. Mom was the sweet, loving, kind lady that you remember seeing lying on the couch there.
You eventually were feeding her.
I was eventually feeding her.
Was that because she couldn't do it, or?
Well, and that's right.
Or you're just making it easier for her?
Well, in some cases, both. Of course, I think that's why they die. They can't swallow anymore. That part I didn't really understand. I don't know. And the other thing that kind of surprised me when hospice first came, I was doing my research thing. The nurse I knew well and been with for 20 years almost suggested that I ought to contact hospice. Hospice had a rule, you know, you couldn't get in hospice unless you're probably going to be gone in 6 months. And I had no idea that your mother was that weak, that she could be passing in 6 months. So I said, well, I don't think I should see them. She said, just make a point with them and let them come and talk to you. I called them. They came on Monday. They were here less than 20 or 30 minutes, and they had her in the program. And they knew, even then, we're talking about April or May. She died in August. They knew she was already very weak, and I didn't know that. Taking care of somebody day in and day out, they can get weaker and weaker and weaker, and you don't see it. I don't know how they knew.
Yeah.
I didn't know. That's what I'm trying to explain. I know that she was weak. So when they took her into the program, which the advantage of that was that they had people who came that helped with their giving her a shower and so forth. I used to help her give her a shower, but they did it then twice a week. They had a nurse come a couple of times a week. But anyway, and then they had people counseling those of us who were caregivers to make sure that we're handling that well. I don't think I had any of those problems because I knew about the program. It wasn't earth-shatteringly sad for me or anything. I just knew about it because I'd been in the program for 20-some years. It was sad to see Mom go. She was a delightful lady, and she's the one that probably should be still here and entertaining the world instead of me. But hey, that isn't the way God made it. He gave me a chance to pay back, and I loved that. Mom was just a delightful person. First gal I ever dated. First gal I ever had any interest in. And I fell in love with your mom the first day I saw her.